Good evening. You're watching the news live from the news center of the Sultanate of Oman television. First, the headlines. The Sultanate and International Labour Organization in Geneva signed an agreement to extend Decent Work Country program. Sultanate achieves the first place at Gulf level and 8th place at the level of West Asian countries in the field of open data. And Moscow calls for dialogue between Qatar and its neighbors in the Gulf as Russian foreign minister meets his Qatari counterpart. Good evening once again. Thank you for joining us. Those were the headlines, and now, live, here is the news in detail. The Sultanate signed an agreement to extend the understanding agreement to implement Decent Work Country program of International Labour Organization in Geneva. These came within the Sultanate's approach to provide safe work environment that ensures achieving more rights for workers and enhance their role and contribution in the production and economic process. In implementation of this agreement, the two sides will focus on exchanging expertise between the Sultanate and the organization on enhancing the productivity and effectiveness of labor market. His Excellency Sheikh Abdullah bin Nasser al-Bakri, Minister of Manpower, said that the Sultanate will benefit from the International Labour Organization through organizing workshops in the Sultanate on employment issues, community dialogues and health and occupational safety, with the participation of the organization experts and the three work parties, the employers, the workers and the government. The Sultanate, represented by the National Center for Statistics and Information, achieved the first place at Gulf level and 8th place at the level of West Asian countries in the field of open data. It competed with 173 countries in the world. The Sultanate achieved 42 points in Open Data Inventory 2016 ODIN, issued by Open Data Watch organization in the United States. This international evaluation is the only review of the coverage and openness of statistical data. Sweden, followed by Switzerland, topped the list of this assessment. And now we move to the international news. Moscow called today for a dialogue between Qatar and its neighbors in the Gulf, promising help in mediating the crisis as Russia's foreign minister met his Qatari counterpart. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said in opening remarks of his meeting with Qatari Foreign Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani in Moscow that they have observed with concern the news of this escalation. Qatar is reaching out for support abroad as it has fallen out with its Arab neighbors who accuse it of sponsoring extremist groups. Bahrain, Egypt, Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates have cut diplomatic ties on Monday and are trying to blockade Qatar by air and sea. Qatar has denounced the allegations against it, and Al Thani, during his meeting with Lavrov, called the measures against the countries illegal. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, meanwhile, said that Russia is ready to try to do everything in its power to help resolve the Gulf crisis and said unity is needed to fight terrorism. He added that for them, unity is clearly necessary for maximum effect against terrorism. Lavrov said they cannot be happy in a situation when the relations between their partners are worsening, and they are in favor of resolving any disagreements through dialogue. And now to Syria. Syria pro-government forces now hold more than a fifth of the country's strategic desert after reaching the eastern border with Iraq for the first time since 2015. The desert, known as Al-Badia, extends over some 90,000 square kilometers from central Syria to the borders with Iraq and Jordan to the east and southeast. Since 2015, much of Badia has been held by the Daesh group, but Syria's army has been chipping away at it for months. Yesterday, they reached the country's eastern frontier with Iraq for the first time in 2 years. Syria's conflict erupted in March 2011 with protests against the government. It has since evolved into a complex multi-front war that has drawn in international powers and left more than 320,000 people dead. And now to Brazil. Brazil's Superior Electoral Court quashed charges of illegal financing during the 2014 presidential election against President Michel Temer, meaning that Temer will hold onto office. The 7 judges on the Superior Electoral Tribunal, after a fierce debate over the past few days, voted 4-3 against a suit about alleged campaign finance violations that would have annulled what was left of Temer's mandate. The decision is a much-needed victory for Temer, who has faced growing calls that he resigns amid a corruption scandal. Temer has denied all wrongdoing and vowed to stay in office. Earlier this month, Brazil's federal police sent President Temer a list of more than 80 questions related to the corruption case. You're watching the Sultanate of Oman television, and still to come in our news bulletin. As part of activities during these nights of Ramadan, Oman PlayStation Championship was organized in the Wilayah of Sib. Welcome back to the news of the Sultanate of Oman television. Introducing tolerance of Islam, guiding those who embraced Islam recently in how to perform the Islamic rituals, and encouraging non-Muslims to embrace Islam were the main goals of Islam orientation activity. The activity is organized by the Minister of Endowments and Religious Affairs for non-Muslims in order to explain the true image of Islam and correcting misunderstandings of Islam's teachings and practices. The event is considered a golden opportunity for non-Muslims to have an insight to the religion of Muslims and acquaint with its teachings. The ministry, and through this activity, seeks to encourage non-Muslims to accept Muslims' rituals in the holy month of Ramadan, in addition to highlighting experiences of those who embraced Islam recently. The activity was accompanied by a lecture given by the American Islamic preacher Khalid Yasin, in which he focused on the tolerance of Islam. With the participation of more than 90 competitors, the activities of the Holy Quran competition were concluded in the Wilayah of Daba in the Governorate of Musandam. The competition aimed at encouraging Omani youth to memorize the Holy Quran. The organizers of the competition urged parents to encourage their children to exert more efforts in memorizing the Holy Quran and learning Tajweed, in addition to highlighting the efforts of the Wilayah of Daba in caring for the Holy Quran. The male and female competitors were divided into 4 levels, and they competed in memorizing and reciting the Holy Quran. Oman PlayStation Championship was organized in the Wilayah of Sib as part of Ramadan night activities. More than 380 participants from various governorates of the Sultanate took part in the event. Valuable prizes were allocated for winners in this championship. The event was attended by many PlayStation games fans amid thrilling experiences. And now let's look at the Ramadan times for tomorrow. Fajr prayers at 3:52 a.m. and Maghrib prayers at 6:59 p.m. And now here is the general weather forecast around the Sultanate. Clear skies will prevail over the Sultanate, with chances of scattered rainfall over the Governorate of Al-Wusta and Dhofar. Winds will be northeasterly to easterly light to moderate. Seas will be slight with a maximum wave height of 1.25 meters. is the Sultanate of Oman television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. Sultanate and International Labour Organization in Geneva signed an agreement to extend Decent Work Country program. The Sultanate achieves the first place at Gulf level and 8th place at the level of West Asian countries in the field of open data. And Moscow calls for dialogue between Qatar and its neighbors in the Gulf as Russian Foreign Minister meets its Qatari counterpart. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news bulletin, brought to you live from this news center of the Sultanate of Oman television. From the entire news team, led by Mohammed Al-Mahrouqi and the entire news team and myself, we thank you for joining us. Wish you a pleasant evening and good night.